Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 27, Freemasonry Among Pirates, from Book the Second, The Practice of the Mystic Tie by Albert G. Mackey. Part 27, Freemasonry Among Pirates. Miss Martineau, who, by the way, was an anti-Mason and joined our enemies when she was in this country in their abuse of the institution, nevertheless relates in her retrospect of Western travels the following anecdote, which is so favorable to the character of our order as to surprise us that candor had not at once induced her to disclaim all future opposition to an institution, to whose panegyric she has here contributed. Then came, says Miss M., Captain L., with his 5 fine daughters. He looked too old to be their father, and well he might. When master of a vessel, he was sat ashore by pirates, with his crew on a desert island, where he was 36 days without food. Almost all his crew were dead, and he was just dying, when help arrived by means of masonry. Among the pirates were a Scotchman, a Mason, as was Captain L. The two exchanged signs. The Scotchman could not give aid at the moment, but after many days of fruitless and anxious attempts, he contrived to sail back at the risk of his life and landed on the desert island on the 6th day of his leaving it. He had no expectation of finding the party alive, but to take the chance and lose no time, he jumped ashore with a kettle full of wine in his hand. He poured wine down the throats of the few whom he found still breathing, and treated them so judiciously that they recovered. At least it was called recovery. But Captain L's looks are very haggard and nervous still. He took the Scotchman home and cherished him to the day of his death. Captain Smith, N.A., Lecture on Charity, relates a similar instance of the efficacy of masonry. A vessel of some 250 tons and a crew of 18 hands was taken by a private. The captain and his supercargo were ordered upon the deck when they were attacked personally by a part of the crew, and an attempt was made to strike off the captain's head, and he was ordered to lay it down upon the windlass for that purpose. When he was about to lay his head upon the block, in addressing a momentary thought to God, he made the Mason sign. The captain of the pirate was a Mason. He immediately told his crew that he saw a ship, and that all hands must work and lose no time in restoring the property, and letting the captured vessel pass harmless. Another instance of the influence of masonry upon the heart of a pirate is related by Brother Charles Mocatta, worshipful master of one of the best lodges in England, St. George's Lodge of Harmony, held in Liverpool. Many years ago, when Brother Mocatta was on his return from South America to England, with all he possessed and in his own vessel, he was boarded by a pirate. Among his papers was a masonic certificate, which the pirate captain, himself a Freemason, although a fallen one, recognized. The usual tests were exchanged, after which the marauder told him to let his men take away whatever they pleased, which he would pay for, and when dusk come on, to steer in one direction while he would take another. This was done, and Brother Mocatta arrived safely in England with his property. In the Freemasons' Quarterly Review for March 1845 is contained a still more interesting anecdote of the sacred estimation in which the Masonic ties were held by a pirate. The particulars were communicated by Brother Glenn, a member of the Phoenix Lodge at Sunderland, England, at a meeting of the Lodge of Instruction held at the George and Vulture Tavern, Cornhill, London. In the year 1830, Brother Glenn, who had not then been initiated into masonry, was made of a merchant vessel, which was filled with a general cargo and bound for the island of Cuba. The crew, besides the captain and mate, consisted of 7 seamen. When within about 3 days' sail of their port of destination, they discovered a suspicious-looking schooner, apparently hovering in their course, and which, from her appearance and motions, they were fearful was a pirate. Being almost in a defenseless state, they were naturally much alarmed and endeavored, by altering their course, to avoid the schooner. But she, crowding all sail, bore down quickly upon them and brought them to. The piratical character of the schooner was now but too clearly apparent. The merchantman was boarded by 25 desperadoes, all armed with pistols and cutlasses. Against such a numerous and well-armed force, resistance was out of the question. The captain of the pirate was a Spaniard. He was accompanied by his lieutenant, who was dressed in a peculiar manner, with tight red pantaloons, and Brother Lynn conjectured, from his appearance, that he was a Maltese. The captain, mate, and crew of the merchantman were immediately seized. Pistols were presented to their heads, and they were threatened with instant death unless they immediately gave up all the money on board. They had scarcely any specie, and the pirate captain, being dissatisfied, proceeded to plunder the vessel of everything which was valuable and portable, and then vowed, with the most horrid imprecations, that he would burn the vessel and destroy all her crew. This ruffian spoke broken English. The other pirates spoke in Spanish. The unfortunate crew of the merchantman were now bound and secured in the forepart of the vessel. The captain and Brother Glenn were also tied to 2 pillars in the cabin. The work of plunder was finished, and the pirate captain had given directions for the destruction of the vessel by fire. Gunpowder, tar barrels, and other combustible materials were brought from the schooner and placed on board the fattened vessel, a matter best calculated to secure her speedy destruction. While these horrible proceedings were in progress, the cries and lamentations of the unfortunate crew were pious in the extreme. Their supplications for mercy were, however, entirely disregarded, and the train actually laid. At this awful conjuncture, the lieutenant of the pirates, who had before been noticed, went aft and entered the cabin where Brother Glenn and his captain were secured, his purpose being apparently to make a further search before leaving the vessel for anything valuable which might previously have escaped observation. Brother Glenn and the captain were, as may well be imagined, in a most dreadful state of terror and alarm, expecting nothing less than instant death, and that in its most horrible shape. The captain happened, fortunately for himself and crew, to be a Mason. As a last resource, he attracted the pirates' attention and made the sign of an EAP. The latter regarded him steadfastly for an instant and replied by making the sign of a FC. Brother Glenn was, at that time, ignorant of the meaning of these proceedings, but he did not fail to perceive that the countenance of his captain, before so anxious and terror-stricken, was instantly lightened up with joy and hope, whilst a glance of mutual intelligence passed between him and the pirate. Some further communication then passed between them. Neither could understand the other's language, but in this short interval, they made themselves understood by the universal medium of masonry. The lieutenant then returned to the deck, where, as it subsequently appeared, he dissuaded the captain of the pirates from his intention of burning the vessel, and induced him to abandon her and the crew without further injury. Shortly afterwards, the captain and greater part of the pirates left. The lieutenant and 5 others remained on board. The lieutenant went again into the cabin and wrote a short note in the Spanish language, which he carefully folded up and left upon the cabin table. He then, with a knife, cut the cords which Brother Lynn had been bound, and making a gesture of caution, left the ship with the remaining portion of the pirate's crew. Brother Glenn speedily released the captain, who then informed him that he had made himself known to the pirate as a Mason, and to that circumstance their deliverance must be attributed. After waiting, as they deemed, a sufficient time to allow the schooner to get out of sight, they cautiously proceeded to the deck and released the crew. Their vessel had been completely ransacked and was in a state of utmost confusion. They could see the train which had been laid for their destruction. They then carefully removed the combustibles and returned thanks for their deliverance, again proceeding on their course. Nothing particular occurred until the second day following, when to their utter consternation, they again espied the powerful schooner, which bore down upon them as before. They hoisted their English colors, when the private, recognizing the vessel as the same which had been recently pillaged, merely displayed his black flag, the terrible insignia of his dreadful calling, which he almost immediately lowered, and then, altering his course, stood off without offering the merchantman any further molestation, and was seen by them no more. On the following day they arrived in port, when Brother Glenn and the captain made a protest of the circumstances, and it was found that the letter, which had been left on the cabin table, was couched in the following terms: "Brother, having recognized you as a Mason, I have induced the captain to spare the lives of yourself and crew, but for this you would all have perished. It was subsequently discovered that 2 American vessels had been destroyed by fire in these seas. The crew of both perished, and no doubt under similar circumstances. Brother Glenn, on his return to England, lost no time in asking admission into our order, which, under Providence, had been the means of preserving his life." Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.